I was holding my husband's shattered phone, trying to find our insurance information, when something on the screen made my whole body go still. We'd been driving home from dinner, nothing special, just an ordinary night out because neither of us felt like cooking. He was driving, I was watching streetlights blur past the window, feeling that particular calm you only feel with someone you've built an entire life with. Then headlights swung wide into our lane, too fast, too close, and the next thing I knew there was a sound I still can't fully describe, metal folding into metal, glass shattering everywhere, my body slamming forward against the seatbelt so hard I couldn't breathe for a second. We were both okay. Shaken, bruised, but okay. The other driver walked away fine too. And once the paramedics confirmed nobody needed the hospital, my brain shifted into that strange practical mode people go into after something terrifying, the mode where you function without actually feeling anything yet. We needed our insurance information for the police report. His phone had cracked straight across the screen in the crash. Mine was dead somewhere under the seat. So we sat together on the curb while the officers finished up, and he handed me his broken phone because his hands were shaking too hard to type. I remember how strange it felt, how normal, the two of us huddled over a cracked screen in the middle of all that wreckage, working together the way we always had. I tapped carefully across the broken glass, searching for the right icon, and a notification slid down from the top. Just a preview. Just a few words, visible for maybe 2 seconds. A name I didn't know. A sentence that had no business existing inside a marriage. I didn't say anything. I kept looking for the insurance app, because some stubborn part of me refused to let the two things exist in the same moment, refused to let this be real while a police officer stood over us with a clipboard. I found the app. I read the policy number out loud in a steady voice that didn't belong to the person screaming inside my own head. And even as I read those numbers out loud, a memory surfaced uninvited, a night 3 months earlier when he'd come home late from the gym smelling like someone else's perfume, and I'd asked him about it in the kitchen, half joking, and he'd laughed it off so easily, so naturally, that I'd actually felt embarrassed for even bringing it up. I remembered apologizing to him that night for being paranoid. I remembered him hugging me and telling me I had nothing to worry about. Standing there on that curb with his broken phone in my hand, that whole memory rearranged itself in front of me, twisting into something I couldn't unsee. We got home bruised and exhausted, and I made him tea because that's what you do when your hands are still trembling from something you survived. I sat across the table from him and said nothing about what I'd seen. I told myself I'd misread it. I told myself the crack in the screen had distorted the words. I lay next to him in the dark that night, and my whole body felt like it was vibrating at a frequency only I could hear, my thoughts circling that name over and over, and I still didn't sleep, not for one single minute. In the morning, while he showered, I picked up that phone again. My hands weren't just shaking, they were shaking so hard the phone nearly slipped out of them twice before I even unlocked it. I didn't know his passcode, had never needed it in 6 years, but the message was still sitting right there on the lock screen, untouched. I read it once, and my stomach dropped so violently I had to grab the edge of the sink. I read it a second time, and my vision actually blurred at the edges, my breath coming shallow and fast, like the air in the room had thinned. I read it a third time, sitting down hard on the closed toilet lid because my legs simply stopped working, and somewhere in that bathroom, with the shower still running behind the door, I understood that the version of my life I'd woken up believing in that morning no longer existed. I sat there for a long moment after the shower shut off, just staring at the tile floor, my mind scrambling to find some version of this that didn't end with everything falling apart. I thought about my sister, 3 states away, who had never liked him from the very first dinner she'd had with us, who had said something once, gently, about a feeling she couldn't name. I thought about calling her right then, phone still in my hand, just to hear a voice that wasn't his. But there wasn't time. I could hear him humming to himself as he reached for a towel, completely unaware that his entire life was about to change in the next few minutes, and some part of me needed to face this alone before I let anyone else's voice into it. The message was from a name I'd never once heard in 6 years of marriage, and it said something short. Same time Thursday. I miss you already. Sent the night before, while we were sitting in that wrecked car on the side of the road. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I scrolled up, and what I found wasn't one message, it was months of them, maybe longer, hotel confirmations, a photo I closed out of so fast my thumbs slipped and I had to open the app again just to make sure I'd actually seen what I thought I'd seen. I sat on the edge of our bed afterward, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles went white, my whole chest heaving like I'd just run somewhere at full speed, and I couldn't stop the tears that came, fast and silent, dropping straight onto the cracked screen in my lap. I heard the water shut off. I wiped my face hard with both hands, set the phone down exactly where I'd found it, and sat there shaking, waiting, my heart slamming so hard against my ribs I thought he'd be able to hear it the second he walked in. He came out in a towel, still talking about the insurance claim, completely unaware that the last 20 minutes had rearranged everything I thought I knew about the last 6 years. I let him talk. My voice, when it finally came, sounded nothing like my own. "Who's Danielle?" I said, and I watched his whole face collapse, panic rearranging his features before he even opened his mouth. "She's nobody, she's someone from the gym," he said, and his voice cracked on the word gym. "I read the messages," I said, my hands still trembling in my lap. "I wasn't looking for them. I was looking for the insurance number, because you asked me to, because your hands were shaking too hard to do it yourself, and while I was trying to help you, her message popped up on your screen." He sat down on the end of the bed, water dripping off him onto the carpet, and he didn't deny it. He started talking fast, the way people do when they're building a wall out of words before the roof comes down. "It started small," he said. "It didn't mean anything at first. Things had been hard between us and he didn't know how to say that out loud, so he'd found somewhere else to say it." He said her name again, softer this time, like saying it gently might soften what it had done to me, and I felt something in my chest twist harder at that, because even now, in this moment, he was still choosing his words to protect himself instead of trying to reach me. "How long?" I asked, my voice breaking on the second word. 8 months, he said, and something in me that had been holding on by pure instinct let go completely. My hands flew to my mouth, and for a moment I couldn't breathe at all, couldn't speak, could only sit there shaking while 8 months rearranged itself into every small distance I'd felt between us and never had a name for, every late night at the office, every phone turned face down on the counter, every time I'd told myself I was imagining things. I didn't scream, though some part of me wanted to. I stood up on legs that barely held me, walked to the closet, and pulled down the suitcase we'd used for our honeymoon, my hands still trembling so badly I could barely work the zipper, tears blurring everything in front of me as I threw things into it without any order at all. "What are you doing?" he said, standing in the doorway, the towel still around his waist. "I'm leaving," I said, and even though my whole body was shaking, my voice came out steadier than I expected. "Can we just talk about this? We just got in a car accident. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months," I said, wiping my face with the back of my hand, zipping the suitcase closed. "The accident didn't break anything between us. You did that a long time before last night. It just happened to be the reason I was holding your phone the moment it finally caught up with you." I carried the suitcase down the stairs myself, past the kitchen table where we'd sat drinking tea only hours earlier, past our wedding photo hanging exactly where it had hung for 6 years, and I didn't look back once, even though my hands were still shaking on the handle. He followed me to the front door, saying my name, asking me to wait. I opened the door, set the suitcase on the porch, and turned to face him one last time, my eyes still wet, my voice finally steady. "Thank you for handing me your phone last night," I said. "I never would have found out any other way, and some part of me needed to know before I wasted another year on this." Then I picked up the suitcase, walked to my car, and sat behind the wheel for a moment before starting the engine, my whole body finally letting go, sobs breaking out of me in the quiet of that front seat, harder than I'd let myself feel in front of him. My hands were shaking again as I found my sister's name in my contacts, and when she picked up, her voice thick with sleep, I couldn't even get words out for a second, just breath and static and the sound of my own crying filling the line. Hey, what's wrong?" she said, suddenly wide awake, her voice sharpening with alarm. "Are you hurt? Is it the accident?" "We're fine," I managed. "The accident's fine. It's him. I found out about him." She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't need to. There was a pause, just long enough for me to hear her sit up in bed on the other end of the line, and then she said the only thing I needed to hear in that moment. Drive here. Right now. I'll leave the porch light on. Okay, I said, my voice cracking on that one small word. You're going to be okay, she said, her voice steady and certain even through the static. I promise you, you're going to be okay. Just drive safe, and call me the second you're on the road. And hearing her say my name back, steady and warm and utterly certain, was enough to let me put the car in drive and finally pull away from the house we'd bought together, without a single glance in the rearview mirror.